Good morning, everyone.
As we stand here in 2025, a year that once felt distant, even futuristic, I want to remind you of one simple truth. You owe it to yourself, not to your past,
Not to your doubts.
not to the expectations others placed on you. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to stop dimming your light because it makes others comfortable. You owe it to yourself to chase the goals you set in silence when no one else believed in them. You owe it to yourself to wake up every day and give life everything you've got, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. This is the year to stop asking for permission to be great. This is the year to stop negotiating with your potential. Look around. Technology is evolving, the world is shifting, and change is constant. But amid all that, the one thing that matters most hasn't changed: you. In this life, no one will ever care as deeply about your dreams, your growth, or your future as much as you should. That's not a criticism of others. It's a simple truth. While friends, family, mentors, and supporters may walk parts of the journey with you, the responsibility to move forward, to change, to level up, that responsibility is entirely yours. Taking ownership of your life is not just about accepting blame when things go wrong. It's about stepping fully into your power, recognizing that your choices moment to moment are shaping your destiny. There will be moments when things happen that are out of your control. Setbacks, betrayals, losses, unforeseen challenges. But even in those moments, you have control over how you respond. That response is your power. Taking ownership means not waiting for external circumstances to improve before you take the next step. It means choosing to act even when you don't feel ready. It means looking in the mirror and saying, no one else is going to do this for me. I have to show up. Even when it's hard, even when I'm tired, even when I'm scared. We live in a time when it's easy to fall into the trap of blame. It's easy to point to our upbringing, our circumstances, the economy, the system, or other people and say, this is why I'm stuck. And sure, those factors play a role. They can shape the playing field. But even on an uneven field, you have the power to play the game differently. Ownership doesn't mean pretending life is fair. It means acknowledging what's unfair and still deciding to do your best with what you have. The danger of avoiding ownership is that it leads to passivity. You start to wait for someone to rescue you. You begin to hope that something or someone will come along and magically change your situation. But that savior, that miracle, that breakthrough, it often arrives disguised as hard work, discipline, and relentless belief in yourself. Ownership is realizing that your future isn't waiting on a lucky break, it's waiting on you. When you take full ownership of your life, you stop being a passenger and become the driver. You no longer drift from day to day, hoping things will change. You start creating your life with intention. You look at your habits, your choices, your mindset, and ask, is this helping me grow or keeping me stagnant? Ownership means being radically honest with yourself about what needs to change, and then having the courage to act on it. That might mean cutting out distractions even when they're comfortable. It might mean walking away from people who don't support your growth. It might mean waking up earlier, setting boundaries, learning new skills, and doing the hard, unglamorous work day after day. It's not always pretty. It's not always Instagram worthy, but it's powerful. Because every step you take from that place of ownership builds something real. Ownership also means giving yourself credit where it's due. Celebrate the progress you've made. Recognize your resilience. Acknowledge how far you've come, not to rest on your laurels, but to remind yourself of your strength. You've already survived days you thought would break you. You've already overcome situations you once feared. That wasn't luck, that was you. And if you did it before, you can do it again. Ownership is remembering that your past victories are proof of your present potential. It's easy to admire people who have made it, those who are successful, confident, thriving. But behind every successful person is someone who decided long before the success came, that they were responsible for their life. They stopped blaming and started building. They got focused, they got consistent, and they kept showing up, even when it felt like nothing was working. That kind of ownership isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet. It's a decision you make every day when no one is watching. It's choosing to keep moving forward when it would be easier to quit. It's trusting yourself when the path is unclear. It's saying, I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm committed to figuring it out. And here's the secret. Ownership is freedom. When you stop waiting for the world to change and start taking charge of your life, you become unstoppable. You don't need approval to begin. You don't need perfect conditions to act. You don't even need certainty. You just need commitment. You move from a place of empowerment, not fear. You understand that everything you want, growth, confidence, success, peace, it starts with the choice to take responsibility for where you are and where you're going. So if 2025 is going to be the year everything changes, let it start here. Not with a goal, not with a resolution, but with a decision. I am taking full ownership of my life. I'm done blaming. I'm done waiting. I'm done shrinking. I'm in control now. Not of everything, but of the things that matter most. My attitude, my actions, my mindset, my growth. There is no perfect time. There is only now. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Because the moment you take full ownership of your life is the moment everything starts to shift. And once you step into that power, you'll look back and realize this was the moment it all began to change. There's a moment in everyone's life when they come face to face with a simple but life-changing truth. No one is coming to give you permission to live your life to the fullest. No one is going to walk up, hand you a golden ticket, and say, it's your time now, go chase your dreams. That's a fantasy we often grow up with, but reality is much different. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect approval, or the perfect signal from the world that it's your turn, you may wait forever. The truth is this, you don't need permission. You never did. From a young age, many of us are taught, either directly or indirectly, to seek approval before we act. We're taught to raise our hand before we speak, to ask for permission to use our voice, to move only when someone says it's okay. While these rules have their place in childhood or structured environments, they quietly train us to doubt our own agency. That conditioning doesn't just fade away when we grow older. It lingers in the background of our minds and shows up in the form of hesitation. We second-guess our ideas. We shrink our ambitions. We wait to be chosen. But the world doesn't work like a classroom. Out here, waiting can become a trap. If you keep looking around for someone to validate your dreams, to tell you you're good enough, talented enough, ready enough, you'll stay stuck. There is no grand authority who gets to decide whether your goals are valid. Your voice, your art, your ideas, your career path, your life, those are yours to claim. And no one else has the final say. One of the most dangerous habits we fall into is asking others to co-sign on our own vision. We think we need their agreement to move forward. We think their opinions carry more weight than our own inner voice. But here's the truth. Your vision was given to you, not them. They can't see it like you can. They don't feel it in their bones like you do. That desire inside you to build, to create, to explore, to change that fire is yours for a reason. If you keep dimming it because others don't understand it, you're not being humble, you're being dishonest with yourself. We often delay our growth because we think boldness needs to be earned. That confidence needs to be bestowed by someone else. But confidence doesn't come from approval. Confidence comes from action. It's built when you start moving, even when no one claps. When you begin without applause. When you show up, even when the seats are empty. And here's the miracle. Once you stop waiting for permission, the world starts to respond differently. People take you more seriously. Opportunities begin to appear, not because they were never there before, but because now you're showing up with conviction. Conviction is magnetic. It doesn't shout or boast. It moves with quiet, unstoppable energy. It says, I believe in this, and I'm doing it with or without you. That's when people start to listen. That's when doors begin to open. And if they don't, you kick them open yourself because you're not waiting anymore. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring feedback or pretending you know everything. There's value in learning from others and being coachable and refining your craft. But there's a huge difference between being open to growth and being frozen by indecision, between listening and letting others decide for you, between collaboration and codependence. You can take in advice and still trust yourself. You can respect other voices and still follow your own. Sometimes the person we're waiting on the most is ourselves. Deep down, we hesitate not because someone told us no, but because we're afraid to say yes. We're scared of what success might demand from us. We're scared of how failure might feel. We worry about what people will say when we step outside the lines. That fear whispers, don't be too different. Don't stand out too much. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. And so we stay small. We seek permission, not because we truly need it, but because it gives us an excuse to hide. But what if you stopped asking? What if you gave yourself the approval you've been seeking? What if you stopped waiting to be chosen and chose yourself instead? You can write your own story without a publisher. You can start your business without an investor. You can create your art, launch your idea, change your life right now. You don't need the spotlight to start shining. Shine anyway. Think about all the things you've held back on. The conversations you didn't start, the projects you never launched, the words you swallowed, the dreams you buried, not because you weren't capable, but because you were waiting for a sign, for support, for someone to believe in you first. But what if the sign was already here? What if the support you need is built into the process? What if the belief has to come from you? Giving yourself permission means you stop making fear your advisor. It means you stop putting your life on pause for people who aren't even paying attention. It means you step into your identity fully without explanation or apology. Because the version of you that holds back to make others comfortable is not the real you. The real you has something to say, something to offer, something to become. And you don't need a green light from anyone else to go after it. In 2025, the world doesn't need more people waiting. It needs people who are willing to lead even when no one follows yet. It needs people who are brave enough to take the first step even when their knees are shaking. It needs people who are willing to stand up, speak out, and live fully, not because someone told them they could, but because they decided they must. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're chasing your purpose. You don't need to justify your dreams. You don't need to ask if it's okay to want more, be more, do more. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And the sooner you stop asking for permission, the sooner you'll start becoming who you were always meant to be. So let this be the moment. Let this be the day. Give yourself the green light. Write your own permission slip. Sign it with boldness. Stamp it with belief and go. Because your life is too important to live it on someone else's terms. You don't need permission. You need courage. And you already have that inside you. There comes a point in every journey where the past begins to whisper louder than the present. It's in the quiet moments when the world pauses, when we're alone with our thoughts, that the memories come rushing in. Some are warm reminders of who we used to be, but others come with weight, regrets, missed chances, mistakes we replay again and again. It's human to look back. Reflection is part of growth. But staying there living in the past is like trying to move forward while dragging a heavy anchor behind you. At some point, you have to decide that what's behind you is not more important than what's ahead. Learning from the past is not the same as being defined by it. There's a big difference between remembering and reliving. Memory can be a teacher, But when you hold on too tightly, it becomes a prison. Too often we let our past failures become the lens through which we see the present. We carry around the story of what didn't work out, who we used to be, and why we think we're not good enough now. But the past is not who you are, it's who you were. And who you were doesn't get to dictate who you can become. Every single person has a past that includes mistakes, heartbreaks, poor decisions, and pain. That doesn't make you broken. That makes you human. If you're brave enough to reflect honestly, there is power in those experiences. Your past has something to teach you, but only if you stop running from it or clinging to it. You can't rewrite what happened, but you can choose how it shapes you. You can carry the lesson without carrying the weight. Sometimes we romanticize the past because it feels familiar. Even the hard moments can feel safer than the unknown future. So we revisit old habits, reconnect with unhealthy relationships, or hold on to former identities that no longer serve us. We do it not because it's good for us, but because it's comfortable. But growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from choosing to step into uncertainty with courage. It comes from believing that what's possible matters more than what's familiar. And then there are the times we let the past define our limits. Or we say things like, I've always been this way, or that's just who I am, as if we are bound forever to past versions of ourselves. But people change. You've already changed. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago or even 5 months ago. So why should you keep telling the same story about yourself? You are allowed to grow beyond your past. You are allowed to change your mind, your habits, your direction. Just because something has always been one way doesn't mean it always has to be. Learning from the past means taking responsibility for what you can, forgiving yourself for what you couldn't control, and deciding to move forward anyway. It's not about pretending it never happened. It's about choosing to build something better from what you now know. You can honor your past without living in it. You can say, yes, that happened, and still take bold steps into your future. Some people will try to hold you to your past. They'll remind you of who you used to be, not because they truly care about your growth, but because your transformation challenges their comfort zone. Don't let those voices keep you small. Just because they can't see your evolution doesn't mean it's not happening. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your life isn't a courtroom. You don't owe the world evidence. You owe yourself progress. Forgiveness is part of this process too. Forgiving others, yes, but also forgiving yourself. There are things you didn't know back then. There were situations you handled the best way you could with the awareness and strength you had at the time. It's easy to judge your past self with your present wisdom, but that's not fair. You've grown, you've learned, you've come through things that many people would have collapsed under. Don't use your past as a weapon against yourself. Use it as fuel. The people who achieve the most in life aren't the ones who've never made mistakes. They're the ones who stopped letting their mistakes make them. They faced their past, took the lesson, and kept moving. They didn't let shame become their identity. They didn't let regret take up permanent space in their mind. They acknowledged the pain, processed it, and then made a choice to heal. And healing isn't a moment, it's a series of moments. It's deciding again and again, I'm not going to live back there anymore. Your future is being shaped right now, not by what happened to you, but by what you're doing with what happened. Are you using it to justify staying the same? Or are you using it to strengthen your foundation and rise higher? You have the power to change your story starting today. But you can't do it if you keep rereading the same old chapters. Close the book if you have to. Start a new one. The pen is in your hand now. In 2025, let this be the year you finally let go, not to forget, but to be free. Free from the loops that keep replaying in your head. Free from the version of yourself that no longer fits. Free from the guilt that's been weighing you down. It's not about erasing your past. It's about outgrowing it. Becoming someone new doesn't mean betraying who you were. It means honoring that version of you by choosing better, by choosing growth. There is so much waiting for you on the other side of your healing. Peace, power, purpose. But you can't get there if you're still building your future with the materials of your past. You need new thoughts, new beliefs, new actions. And it starts with a new mindset. One that says, I've learned from where I've been and I'm ready to go somewhere new. You're not here to repeat cycles. You're here to break them, to grow through them, to rise above them. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. There will always be reasons not to begin. Always. Too tired, too busy, not the right time, not enough resources, not enough knowledge, not ready. The mind is skilled at crafting believable excuses, so skilled that over time you begin to believe them yourself. You start to think that maybe it really is too late. Maybe you really are too inexperienced. Maybe success is only meant for people who have perfect timing, perfect connections, or perfect lives. And so you wait, you delay, you plan more than you act. You think about change, talk about change, wish for change, but nothing actually changes. Days pass, weeks pass, years pass. All the while your goals remain dreams. And your dreams remain just ideas. Excuses have a quiet but powerful way of stealing your life. But here's the truth. You can't build the life you want on excuses. You can only build it through action. At some point, you have to decide that your desire to change is stronger than your desire to stay comfortable. At some point, you have to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start with what you have. And yes, it's hard. It's messy, it's uncertain, but progress always is. Nothing great is built in comfort. Every meaningful breakthrough, personal, professional, emotional, begins with someone choosing to act even when they were scared, unsure, or unprepared. You don't overcome excuses with motivation. Motivation is fleeting. Some days you'll feel fired up. Some days you'll feel like giving up. If your progress depends on how motivated you feel, you won't get far. What you need is discipline. What you need is the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. That's where the magic is. In the ordinary, often boring consistency of taking daily action. That's what builds momentum. That's what silences doubt. That's what crushes excuses. Most people underestimate what small, consistent effort can do over time. They think they have to make massive leaps every day, or nothing counts. But the truth is, the quiet victories are the ones that matter most. Waking up a little earlier to focus on your goals, saying no to a distraction, committing to learning something new each day, making the tough phone call, putting in the work, even when the results aren't instant. These actions may seem small, but over time they compound. They become habits. They become your foundation. And eventually they become your transformation. Excuses often mask fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of looking foolish. But you cannot let fear be your compass. If you only do what feels safe, you'll never know what you're truly capable of. Growth requires risk. It requires vulnerability. It requires the willingness to fail and try again. No one who has ever built anything meaningful did so without setbacks. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't that they never faced obstacles. It's that they kept moving anyway. They didn't allow fear to paralyze them. They turned fear into fuel. They let action speak louder than doubt. You have to call yourself out. Be honest. Are your excuses true limitations, or are they just convenient reasons to avoid discomfort? Are you really too busy, or are you avoiding prioritizing what matters? Are you really not ready, or are you just afraid of what will happen if you actually go all in? The more honest you are with yourself, the more power you reclaim. Excuses lose their grip when you stop giving them power. No one can do the work for you. You can read every self-help book, attend every seminar, talk to every coach, but if you don't act, nothing changes. Knowledge without application is wasted. Inspiration without execution fades. Ideas without effort are just dreams. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Taking action doesn't mean you won't fail. You will. Everyone does. But failure isn't the enemy. Inaction is. Every time you take action, even imperfect action, you learn something. You gain clarity. You build resilience. And that growth over time turns into confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't come from hype, but from experience. From proving to yourself day after day that you can follow through, that you can keep going, that you can create change. And once you realize that excuses are just stories you've been telling yourself, you can write a new one. A story where you show up, where you face the hard stuff, where you choose discipline over comfort, commitment over convenience. A story where you stop hoping and start doing, where you stop waiting and start building. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need the perfect timing. You need to start right now with what you have, even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if it's scary, especially if it's scary. Because fear usually points you toward the things that matter most, the things that will stretch you, shape you, and elevate you. Look at your life. Look at where you are. Now look at where you want to be. That gap between the two, that's filled with action, not excuses, not waiting, not wishing. Action. Daily, deliberate, focused action. That's what gets you there. That's what builds confidence. That's what creates results. You can read this and feel inspired, but nothing will change unless you do something with it. You owe it to yourself to stop hiding behind excuses. You owe it to yourself to stop settling. You owe it to yourself to prove to yourself that you're not just talk, that you're willing to put in the work, not for anyone else, not for applause, but because you know your life matters, because you know your dreams deserve more than empty promises. They deserve your energy, your effort, your full commitment. So when the excuses start creeping in, and they will meet them with action, when your mind says, I can't, respond with I'm trying. When it says it's too hard, respond with I'm learning. When it says I'll do it tomorrow, respond with I'm starting today. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be persistent. Action is your power. It's your protest against every limitation, every doubt, every delay. It's how you take control of your life. It's how you create momentum. And once you start, you'll realize excuses aren't truth. They're just noise. And you were made for more. One of the most powerful but often overlooked secrets to success and happiness lies in the company you keep. The people around you, the environments you inhabit, the media you consume. These things shape who you are far more than you might realize. Positivity isn't just a feel-good cliche. It's a practical, transformative force that can change the trajectory of your life. When you surround yourself with positivity, you're not just creating a better atmosphere. You're building a foundation that supports your growth, your resilience, and your dreams. Think about how you feel after spending time with certain people. Some leave you energized, inspired, and uplifted. They make you believe in possibilities. Others drain your energy, fill your mind with doubt, or keep you stuck in negativity. The choice of who you spend your time with is one of the most important decisions you can make because their mindset influences yours. The attitudes, beliefs, and habits of your closest circle become the air you breathe. If that air is heavy with pessimism, criticism, or fear, it's hard to thrive. But if it's filled with encouragement, hope, and determination, you start to rise naturally. Positivity doesn't mean ignoring the hard truths or pretending everything is perfect. It means focusing on what empowers you rather than what limits you. It means choosing to see setbacks as lessons, challenges as opportunities, and failures as temporary detours rather than dead ends. When you surround yourself with people who live with this mindset, you build a network that reflects your highest potential back to you. The impact of positivity goes beyond just your mental state. It affects your actions and decisions. When your environment encourages growth and optimism, you're more likely to take risks, try new things, and push through obstacles. When negativity dominates your space, you're more likely to play small, doubt yourself, and give up at the first sign of difficulty. This is why so many successful people emphasize the importance of their inner circle. It's not just about support, it's about influence. But positivity isn't only about other people. It's also about what you allow into your mind. The books you read, the shows you watch, the conversations you engage in, and even the thoughts you entertain, all these shape your inner world. Consuming uplifting, inspiring content feeds your mindset. It challenges your beliefs, expands your horizons, and fuels your motivation. On the other hand, constant exposure to negativity, gossip, fear-mongering, or cynicism slowly chips away at your confidence and hope. Protecting your mental space by choosing positivity is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. Sometimes this means making difficult choices. It might mean distancing yourself from relationships that are toxic or draining, even if they've been part of your life for a long time. It might mean setting boundaries with people who bring you down or discourage your dreams. It might mean being selective about the media you consume or the environments you spend time in. These decisions are not selfish. They are necessary steps toward protecting your peace and nurturing your potential. Surrounding yourself with positivity also means cultivating an attitude of gratitude and kindness. When you focus on what's going well, what you're thankful for, and how you can uplift others, you create a cycle of positive energy. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance. Kindness builds connection and community. Together, they create a powerful foundation for joy and resilience. When you are intentional about your outlook, you begin to attract more of what you want because energy flows where attention goes. It's also important to realize that positivity isn't about perfection or always feeling happy. Life has ups and downs. Positivity means resilience. It's the ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward with hope and determination. Surrounding yourself with positivity means being around people who encourage that resilience, who believe in second chances, and who support you when things get tough. It's about building a tribe that celebrates your wins and helps carry you through losses. Sometimes the most positive thing you can do is to be positive for yourself. Self-talk matters more than you might realize. When you speak kindly to yourself, when you affirm your worth, when you remind yourself of your strengths and progress, you build inner positivity. That internal support system is crucial because there will be times when outside encouragement isn't available. Learning to be your own biggest cheerleader is a powerful skill that shapes how you show up in the world. Remember, the world can be noisy and challenging, but you have control over the atmosphere you create around yourself. You don't have to absorb every negative headline or engage in every draining conversation. You can choose to curate your space, both physical and mental, to support your well-being and your goals. It might take courage to step away from familiar negativity, but the reward is a life that feels lighter, clearer, and more hopeful. When you surround yourself with positivity, you create momentum. Positivity fuels energy, creativity, and perseverance. It helps you see solutions instead of problems, possibilities instead of limitations. It gives you the strength to face fear, the courage to take risks, and the wisdom to learn from mistakes. It's the air that ambition breathes and the light that guides you through darkness. You owe it to yourself to build this positive environment. You owe it to yourself to fill your life with people, ideas, and energy that lift you higher. Not because life is always easy or perfect, but because you deserve to thrive regardless. When you make this choice, you're investing in your future, The future where you're stronger, more confident, and unstoppable. Too often we trap ourselves in the cycle of chasing perfection. We set impossibly high standards, waiting for that flawless moment when everything is just right before we allow ourselves to feel proud or successful. We think when I reach this goal, then I'll be happy, or when I get it exactly right, then I can celebrate. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion, an ever-moving target that makes you feel like you're never quite enough. Waiting for perfection steals your joy and paralyzes your progress. Celebrating progress rather than perfection is one of the most freeing mindsets you can adopt. It's a mindset that shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already there. Instead of waiting for the finish line, you recognize and honor every step forward, no matter how small. Because the truth is, every bit of progress matters. Every effort, every lesson learned, every time you get up and try again, that's what builds momentum. That's what moves you closer to your goal. When you celebrate progress, you fuel motivation and resilience. You acknowledge that growth is a journey, not a destination. Instead of beating yourself up for not being perfect, you recognize the courage it takes to keep going. You celebrate the effort, the consistency, and the persistence. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more you celebrate progress, the more motivated you become to continue, and the more progress you make. One of the reasons perfectionism can be so destructive is because it ties your sense of worth to an outcome, to an idealized version of success that's often unrealistic. But your worth isn't dependent on being perfect. Your worth is inherent. You are valuable simply because you exist. When you learn to celebrate progress, you start to untangle your self-worth from the need to be flawless. You start to see yourself as a work in progress, a masterpiece in the making, rather than a problem to be solved. This doesn't mean you stop striving for excellence. Striving for excellence and demanding perfection are not the same. Excellence is about doing your best with what you have in this moment, learning and improving as you go. Perfection is about an impossible standard that often leads to procrastination, self-doubt, and burnout. When you focus on progress, you allow yourself to try, fail, and grow. You give yourself permission to be imperfect, knowing that every mistake is a stepping stone, not a setback. Celebrating progress also helps you build patience and compassion for yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight. Real lasting growth is gradual. It's made up of countless small wins that might not seem significant on their own, but add up to something remarkable over time. When you acknowledge those wins, you reinforce the belief that change is possible. You remind yourself that you are capable of growth, even when it feels slow or difficult. Many people struggle with the fear of failure because they equate failure with being not good enough. But failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of the process. When you celebrate progress, you redefine failure. You see it not as a final verdict, but as feedback. Each stumble is an opportunity to learn and adjust. Each mistake is evidence that you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. It's important to find ways to celebrate your progress that resonate with you. This might be as simple as pausing to acknowledge what you've accomplished at the end of the day. It might be journaling about your wins, no matter how small. It might be sharing your successes with a supportive friend or mentor. Or it might be treating yourself in a way that feels rewarding and meaningful. These celebrations don't have to be grand or elaborate. They just have to be real and genuine. Another powerful way to celebrate progress is to reflect on where you started. Sometimes when you're focused on the next goal, you forget how far you've come. Looking back at your journey can remind you of the strength and effort you've already invested. It can show you that even if you haven't reached your ultimate goal yet, you've grown in ways that matter. This perspective shift can reignite your motivation and help you appreciate your own resilience. Celebrating progress also means shifting your language. Instead of saying, I'm not there yet, try saying, I'm on my way. Instead of I failed, try I learned something. The words you choose influence how you feel and how you act. Positive progress-focused language rewires your brain to see possibility rather than limitation. It helps you build confidence and optimism, which are critical for sustained effort. When you consistently celebrate progress, you develop a stronger relationship with yourself. You become your own ally rather than your harshest critic. You create a mental environment that supports growth instead of sabotage. This self-support creates a foundation of inner strength that helps you navigate challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep moving forward. The goal is to build a life where you can be proud of the effort you put in and the courage you show. The goal is to live fully, learn continuously, and grow without fear of imperfection. Every small step forward is worth celebrating because it's proof that you're not standing still. You owe it to yourself to celebrate progress. Not someday, not when it's perfect, but now, right now. Celebrate the effort you're making, the courage you're showing, and the commitment you're living. When you do, you'll find joy in the journey and strength for the road ahead.